Hey, how you doing there again, folks? You again, of course, Brandon Wenzel. Come back at you with another confession off my Concert Confession series. Yes, indeed, folks, Concert Confession is a vlog series I've been doing for a little while now where I go over there and I confess my concert sins, I recount my recreational revelries, and I muse over my musical misadventures. Basically, it's just one big ego stroke for me to go over there and talk about concerts and shows that I went to. But we'll get to that. Folks, I'm a huge live music fan, and that's where I go, or this is where I go over there to sort of, just rattle off my experiences and have a good time doing it. Whilst I'm doing it, I'm inside my back room today, which means we also get Peter Can Thunderbolt poster back there. Peter Can Thunderbolt poster. And whilst I'm doing all that, folks, I am doing something else. What is it? I'm wearing a super cool shirt. Folks, when I wear super cool shirts, I always like to highlight the super cool shirt. What super cool shirt am I wearing for you today? Happens to be my Consume the Divide shirt. Yeah, I love this shirt. If you're unfamiliar with the band Consume the Divide, they are a local kind of alternative metal band that's actually been doing it for quite a while now. Like, they are not some young punks who just got into it. It's like, no, they've been kicking ass for quite a few years now. I think over a decade now. I ran into these guys many years ago, actually, as one of an opening act for, I believe it was Mushroomhead, if I want to say. And then by happy happenstance, I ran into them again years later. They were actually headlining a show. And I've been cool with them ever since. They're a really great band. I've seen them perform live a number of times. Got some merch, obviously. The lead singers, extremely good guys. The drummer, another friend of mine at this point. What more can you say? I actually have some videos of their shows that I've attended. Those videos are on my channel, in case maybe you want to check them out. If nothing else, I'd be more than happy to kind of point you in the right direction as far as their music goes, because, I just love what they do, and they're awesome guys. But anyway, what are we talking about today, folks? What's going on here? Well, this is Concert Confessions, episode 10, concert number 183. We're getting close to that 200 concert goal. And this one happened to be for the band Cold. Yeah! I've been looking forward to this show for months. Months and months and months. But it wasn't just Cold. And I have sort of a format that I like to do when I get into this particular run of content that I do. So, let's go ahead and let's hit it up. Let's talk about the venue real quick. So the venue for this particular for this particular show was a place called the Bottom Lounge. Now, I'd been to the Bottom Lounge a few times before, and I'd actually even seen Cold perform there before. It's a really cool venue. Like, it's got a decent amount of space to it. It's a really good size for a band like Cold, where like Cold can draw a pretty solid crowd. But they're not gonna draw in an arena or anything like that, But for a good sized venue, bigger than your smaller venues, but not quite as big as your big venues, really nice spot. It's in Chicago. It's actually not too hard to get to from where I live. It's a fairly straight shot, which I always do appreciate. That's just a benefit of the venue being where it is. And yeah, it's got a nice, kind of setting where they have the bar and the open space and everything like that. So if you want, you can just hang out there while you're waiting for the show to start. And then just the space itself is, nicely set up. All things considered, it's a really nice venue. My only criticism, well, two criticisms in this case. Only criticisms of the venue in this case. The one is a constant feature, which is that they have these two big speaker systems hanging from the side of either side of the stage, which is not a bad thing, and the sound is really good there, actually. However, they both block part of the stage, and I'm not an engineer, I'm not the sound guy, I don't know the ins and outs. I, for the life of me, don't understand why they don't just move those a few feet over, so then they would not be blocking the stage at all. I imagine you would still get a similar level of sound quality. That is a little bit of a gripe, because if you're standing too far on one side or the other, you basically can't see that section of the stage. So that's just a little bit of an irk. And then the other thing was just the guy who went over there and was stamping for the tickets and stuff like that. I don't know, man. He was a little bit of a jackass. Like, not a huge jackass, and I understand, you got to deal with a lot of people and everything. But, like, I was perfectly polite to him, He wanted to, he was going to go over there and put the band around my arm, so that I was, hey, I was there. And he was, like, kind of an ass about it, and it was like, dude, what the fuck? I didn't do anything to you. I don't know. He just seemed to have a bit of a shitty attitude. Maybe it was an off day, to be fair. So that's the venue. But let's talk about the bands. That's really the meat of this whole thing. We had 3 bands performing. The first band was a band called University Drive, which is a band that I have seen before because they occasionally tour with Cold. Cold, I have it on good record. They're like fans of theirs, and like they seem to have a really good working relationship. So it's not uncommon for them to tour together. I will say this: the last time I saw University Drive perform, I think it was the first time I saw Cold perform, which would have been back in like 2019, I want to say, something like that. At the time, I did not really take much notice of them. I thought they were okay, like they did a fine job, but like I didn't really, you know. This time around, definitely took notice of them. In the time in which they've, and they've been doing this for a while now too. In the time in which, I saw them last and now, they have definitely, I personally feel they've improved and really gotten really good because, like, I kind of came into them being like, okay, yeah, I've seen their stuff before and I've listened, wasn't going to dunk on them or anything, but, like, I wasn't super excited, if that makes any sense. But actually, they fucking killed it. They were really good on stage, a lot of really nice musicianship. And, you could just tell that, like I said, they've been doing this for a while now, and they definitely really know what the fuck they're doing on there now. I guess one of their guitarists, or no, their bassist, I guess, had to step off for whatever reason on part of the tour. So they had one of their guitar techs filling in. Dude did a great job, in my opinion. No offense to the original bassist or anything. Just figured I'd give that guy a shout out because he had a good run of things. I was trying to get a hold of one of the set lists because they were over there handing them out and stuff. And there was one that was left over and it was like right in front of me. But I was kind of by the stupid freaking speaker I was talking about, so yeah, didn't see me reaching my hand. That hurt. But genuinely really enjoyed their set, like way more than I was expecting. And again, it's not like I expected to hate them or anything, but like it was a thing where it's like, no, okay, y'all impress me. And I think they're a really good tour mate for Cold for a lot of reasons, but also just I think they're genuinely a really solid band. So I don't know, like I probably wouldn't go see them as a headliner, but like I like when they're on a set, if that makes any sense. Or they're on a show. Moving on to the second band. This is a band called September Mourning. I had never heard of these folks before. And whenever I go to a show and there's a band that I'm unfamiliar with, I don't like looking up their stuff too much because like I like to go into it raw and just kind of see what's going on. I did so slightly break this rule though because at one point I saw a woman walking by who was done up with like a bunch of like face paint and stuff and like and I was like, that's either a very eccentric member of the crowd or maybe that's one of the band members. So sure enough, I looked it up, and yeah, like they are a very theatrical band with like sort of costumes and stuff, and I loved them. Loved them. Absolutely was just gushing over them the whole time. I really enjoy theatrical bands. Like I'm a big fan. Mushroomhead's been one of my favorite bands for a really long time. You also have bands like Ventana, Cultus Black. What can I say? I enjoy that element to it. Gives it a little, just an extra dimension. And on top of that, they had a whole other thing going. Like there was internal lore. I guess there's like graphic novels that go along with it. So like there's a whole thing to what they're doing. It's like a multimedia experience. But that's all well and good. If you suck on stage, though, thankfully that wasn't the case. They had a shitload of energy. They had like some light effects and stuff like that, some smoke machines and stuff added to the whole thing. The guys, like definitely the main feature was the female vocalist, and I love female vocalists in metal. I know some people still get, fucking sticks up their butt about that whole thing. yeah, you can kind of fuck off. Female vocalists in metal are awesome. Not all of them. Some of them are gonna suck, but a lot of them are really good. And I really enjoyed that element of things. But like full credit to like the other guys on the stage, they sort of had a little bit of like that ghost thing where it was like, okay, the focal point is obviously the lead singer. That's she's the one who's standing out, and the other ones were more sort of kind of like her. I think they refer to as reapers, who sort of So they had that kind of vibe to them. Cultus Black has that too. Um, but I just, man, like, I thought that everybody fucking killed it. Everybody brought really great energy. The crowd was a little bit here or there for them, which I felt bad for because, like, they really seemed to be putting in the effort. And I don't know if it was just kind of like, I'm guessing they were probably on this tour with Cole because maybe they're label mates or something to that effect. Um, but yeah, maybe it just was a little bit too different from what Cold was doing, or maybe it was just, people were really just there for Cold. But myself, and actually a Facebook friend of mine ended up showing up. We ended up hanging out at the show. We both thought they were fantastic. Afterwards, I went over there. I got a picture with the lead singer and some of the other members. Bought some merch. We'll get to that. I had a fucking blast. I thought they were great. Um, One of my friends on Facebook did go over there and mention that I guess they've been criticized for using like backing tracks and like that whole thing. There was some backing track use during the show for sure, but it seemed to only be when there were like vocal effects going on, for certain songs, which personally I didn't mind. That's just me. I know some people are like entirely against backing tracks. I think when used appropriately, they work nicely. But anyway, really enjoyed their set. I'm officially a fan now. But let's move on to the band of the hour, that being Cold. Now, I've been going over there and yammering out about Cold for years now. Cold is a band that I got into back when I was in like very early high school. Specifically, I saw the music video for the song "No One," and it to this day is my favorite Cold song. But I will be entirely honest in saying that like I would never at that point consider myself like a huge Cold fan. I only ever had one album, 13 Ways to Bleed on Stage. That ties into things. Uh, and it wasn't until 2019 when they came back after a long hiatus that I became a huge fan because seeing them live was such an incredible experience that I literally the next day I went online and I just bought all their albums, like just as many as I could get a hold of. And subsequently, I've tried very hard, basically every year that they've come through, to see them live at least once because I love getting to see them live. Now, at this point, it does beg mentioning, the only original member left in Cold is the lead singer Scooter. Uh, for a little while, they did have the drummer, Sam. He was, still doing stuff with them, but he eventually decided to bow out. And the only other, like, consistent long-running member is the bassist, Lindsay, who is, like, just, the fucking fan base loves her, and she's awesome, and, like, So, but I know there are some people who, it's not the original lineup. Never mind that the original lineup hasn't been the original lineup in fucking decades. But anyway, this was a really special tour for me because it was actually celebrating 2 albums. Originally, the plan was to go over there and do a 20th anniversary tour for the album 13 Ways to Bleed on Stage, since that's like one of their big albums that they did. However, that wasn't able to come to fruition because at the time the COVID thing was still kind of a thing, and so it didn't happen. They decided to go over there and push it back because they had another album that was actually celebrating its 20th anniversary, specifically A Different Kind of Pain, which is a very different Cold album, and even Scooter himself spoke to that effect. But the really cool thing was that as a result, we got literally to listen to 2 full albums. First, they did A Different Kind of Pain in its entirety, and Scooter went over there and kind of talked, about certain, not only about the process of kind of like what brought him to doing that particular album, but also going over there and speaking on, certain songs and kind of the inspiration for that. So that was always really cool. And it was a great way to start things off. Like, even though, again, yeah, it's a very different album than, like, Year of the Spider or 13 Ways to Bleed on Stage, it's such a cool album, and, like, it's very personal to Scooter and to a lot of people. So, even though it, maybe didn't get quite the pop that, like, again, Year of the Spider or 13, it definitely had the crowd going. It was a really emotional and very cool set. Like, I really enjoyed that part of it. Um, Even though, admittedly, I was there for the 13 Ways to Bleed on Stage set. But it was a great way to tie that in, parts of their history. When 13 Ways to Bleed on Stage, they took like a 5-minute break in between. When they got to the 13 Ways to Bleed on Stage, everybody went nuts. Like, it was just, like, they had a great response for a different kind of pain. I don't want to, make it seem like it was like a huge trade-off. But when it got to 13 Ways to Bleed on Stage, that's one of their big commercial albums. That's the one that, like, everybody, in the crowd knows every song. And boy, oh boy, like, we were just rolling with it, man. Like, I was so proud as a Cold fan to see, the crowd and the crowd response. Like, and I've seen it multiple times now, so it's not even like a, sorry about that, I had to close the window real quick. There's a fly that's been buzzing around. It finally flew in between the two windows, so now it gets to die there. Anyway, it was so fucking cool. And for me, like, some of these songs, I've never seen perform live, because they're just not major songs for them. It was so, so cool. And again, Scooter kind of, talked about some of the personal elements of that album and where it fit into the history of Cold. It was a fucking blast, man. I loved it so much. To the extent where this was probably my favorite Cold show that I've seen so far. And I mean, and I say that as like I saw the 20th anniversary of Year of the Spider tour. The first show that I got to see them at was really special as well. But this one, man, like it hit so hard. It connected with the audience in such a great way. I was absolutely blown away and ecstatic by it. So I think that Cold did a phenomenal show, as they always do. But it was just extra cool, especially for me with that 13 Ways to Bleed on Stage thing. I loved it. But, alright, let's move on because I've been yammering. Let's talk about the crowd real quick. The crowd was excellent. Again, like, aside from the fact that, again, one of my friends, a guy named Joe, it turned out that he was there. We actually spotted each other, so we spent, a good chunk of time just chatting and everything. It was fun. Usually I just go to shows solo, so it is kind of nice when I run into friends these things. And actually, the last Cold show I went to, I ran into another friend there. So, Cold's bringing people together, even in the 2020s. But the venue itself, I know the show didn't sell out, but it had to have been close because the place was packed. Like, and I've seen other bands at this venue to lesser effect. So Cold fucking knows how to bring out the crowds, man, and it was great. The only point of contention I did have, near the end of the show, when it was like about half, like basically when they were getting ready to do the 13 Ways to Bleed on Stage thing, I was up front, but kind of at the side, again, sort of over by those dumbass speakers. But I still had a nice shot of the stage. I could still see everything going on. This one girl decided to slip in, and like right in between me and the other guy, so I got pushed slightly over. And she was nice about it, but it was in a bit poor taste. Like, that's not really cool to do that. I'm just tossing that out there, especially since I'd been in my spot the entire time. I didn't make a big stink about it, though, because she was, fairly short, and it wasn't going to, like, impact the way that I saw the show. So I was like, all right, I'm not going to be an asshole about it. That's fine. The problem I did run into, though, was that she eventually let other people fucking switch in her space, which, first of all, fucking then why the hell did you get there anyway? And then on top of that, the people who she let switch were not as nice as her, where she was just, doing her thing. They were annoying and smelled like weed. And while I have you weed enjoyers here, okay, real quick, I'm fine with people who want to smoke. I don't partake, but it's fine with me. Maybe not in public, because you smell like ass. And, like, I don't want that to be a thing. So, I know you probably can't smell it anymore. Trust me, everybody around you who doesn't kind of hates you. But anyway, with that aside, though, the crowd was otherwise excellent. I really had no beef with anybody else in the crowd. It was a really good show, and the crowd was awesome. And even for that little bit that I had to deal with it, it was, very manageable. Let's move on to the merch real quick here, because I did get some merch. Starting off with the only CD I picked up, I got Boom! This is the September Mourning Volume 4 CD. I did not know which, and signed, which is cool. I did not know which one to grab, but the merch girl went over there and she's like, if you like the songs that they played on this set, that's the one that you want to get. So, very cool. Then, I've got... thing. Had to go over there and pick up Boom! September Mourning shirt, which I love the fucking graphic on this, man. That's so cool. And I guess that's actually like artwork from like the graphic novel or something like that. So it's got a thing on the back, says Fear the Reaper. Very cool. Love this shirt. Then, cold stuff. I didn't pick up anything from University Drive. I'm sorry, University Drive, you were cool, but I didn't have a lot of money to spend on things, and I overspent anyway. So, first thing I got was, boom, the Cold, A Different Kind of Pain. You can see we've got Scooter and Lindsay on there, kind of the thing. So, sort of highlighting that element of the show. I do like this particular shirt, but I was hoping for a 13 Ways to Bleed on Stage thing. Sadly, they had sold out of the shirt that they had, but they did at the very least have, if I can get it, boom, boom, 13 Ways to Bleed on Stage hoodie. I am not much of a sweatshirt guy, if I'm being entirely honest. I think I own about 4, and I almost never wear them. But I needed something 13 Ways to Bleed on Stage with this, so. Okay, merch side, and unfortunately, I didn't get any set lists or anything like that. Usually I do, but... So let's go ahead, let's talk pros and cons real quick, and then I'll give it a final grade. Pros, all the bands were great. Even if, like I said, University Drive isn't exactly my jam, they were really good. And, they were a great way to open that show. And I really enjoyed what they were doing. So, I kind of came into them being like, But no, all the bands were great. Again, September Mourning with Cold, a little bit of I could definitely think of better bands to match together, but I didn't personally mind them being there. I thought it was cool. But again, one of these, kind of quasi-cons, if you will, was again just the crowd reaction with September Mourning. And it wasn't like it was nothing. I want to mention that. But it definitely would have been nice, and I think, again, with a different tour mate, that might have worked more in their favor. But, and then really, the terms of cons, again, I don't like the speaker placement. And there might be a perfectly good reason for it. The jackass who was going over there and stamping people's hands and stuff at the door, I don't know, he just came off like being kind of an ass. I didn't see a reason for that personally. And then just that ending with the group of 3 people who kept rotating, in the spot that I'd previously just been in. They kind of sucked. They weren't enough but they were enough to distract me for a couple songs, and that's not fucking cool. So, but anyway, let's talk about the overall grade for this particular show. I'm going to give this one a solid A. I thought this show was fucking awesome. It just, for me, the Cold show in and of itself was tremendous. And it's genuinely one of the best shows that I've been to this year, and I've already been to a lot of really good shows. But it was just such a cool experience. I don't think I was not smiling the entire time, with the exception of, again, maybe the couple times when those jackasses were, kind of bothering me a little bit. But entire rest of the time, it was just the coolest fucking thing. And, getting to find a new band that I really like with September Mourning was awesome. Getting to see University Drive again and getting to see them, how they've progressed since the last time I saw them. Not to mention, I forgot to mention this, a number of the University Drive people actually play in Cold now, because they've had some member switch outs, and they were fucking awesome. Full credit to the guitarist who took over the spots in that, especially the one guy who was close to me. He was doing the full-on nu metal lean when he was doing his guitar work, and he fucking nailed the Cold guitar work, man. He was doing the whole fucking, it was so cool. But yeah, overall, the only thing that really dragged down, honestly, again, just a little bit of the crowd stuff, and just the one guy. The speaker stuff, I get, it is what it is. But then, I also got to hang out with my friend Joe, which was super cool too. So, it doesn't quite manage to reach the upper tier, but damn, that was a great show. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and sign off here now. I don't really have a great outro for this particular thing that I do, so, folks, please go over there and keep supporting live music. Go out to shows, enjoy yourself, buy merch when you can. I know it's not always easy, especially the economy and all that stuff, but go out and support live music. It means the world. Keep fucking rocking on, and yeah,